Imagine being the only doctor within 1,000 miles, in a place where the sun doesn't rise for months, where temperatures drop below -60 degrees, where the wind howls louder than any scream, and the nearest hospital might as well be on another planet. Now imagine realizing something terrifying. You need surgery, and you're the only one who can do it. This is exactly what happened to Dr. Leonid Rogozov on April 29, 1961, the same year humanity first reached for the stars. While Yuri Gagarin orbited Earth in triumph, making headlines worldwide, another kind of history was about to be made, in the most isolated place on Earth. At the Soviet Novolazarevskaya research station in Antarctica, where Russian pride meant as much as scientific research, and asking for American help wasn't just impossible, it was unthinkable. Now, before you think this is some Cold War legend, let me tell you something. The entire operation was photographed, documented in medical journals, and witnessed by his terrified colleagues. Every detail was recorded, because even they knew this would either be a miracle or their doctor's last entry in his diary. Being the only doctor at an Antarctic research station, Rogozov knew the risks when he signed up. The station was equipped with basic surgical tools, emergency medications, and a small operating room. But nothing in his years of medical training could have prepared him for what was coming. It started with a familiar pain in his right side. As a surgeon with a decade of experience, he recognized the symptoms immediately: acute appendicitis. And in Antarctica, in 1961, during the perpetual night of winter, there was no calling for help. No medevac, no backup plan. The nearest medical facility was at Mirny Station, over 1,000 miles of frozen wasteland away, and flying was impossible. The station's meteorologist had recorded gusts of over 200 kilometers per hour, strong enough to flip a plane like a paper toy. In his diary, Rogozov wrote, "I am keeping quiet about my condition," even smiling. "Why worry my friends? But I know unless I do something soon, I will die." He wasn't being dramatic. An inflamed appendix can rupture within 72 hours, spreading deadly infection throughout the abdomen, leading to a painful and certain death. And hour by hour, he could feel his time running out. After 2 days of watching his own symptoms worsen, after 2 days of hiding his pale face from concerned colleagues, after 2 days of being both doctor and patient, in a small room heated to a precise 20 degrees Celsius, Dr. Rogozov made the decision that would make medical history. He wrote in his diary, "I have no choice. It's me or death." What followed was something that defies belief. Using a local anesthetic, Novocaine, with only a small mirror to see his own abdomen, and 2 terrified colleagues who had never assisted in surgery before, Dr. Rogozov began to operate on himself. His station manager, forced to document every moment, would later write, "We couldn't look directly at it, but we couldn't look away either. We knew we were watching either a miracle or a man's last moments." With shaking hands and blurring vision, every movement bringing waves of nausea, Rogozov had to make a choice with each cut. Speed and risk a mistake, or slow down and risk passing out completely. The local anesthetic could only do so much. Each touch of the inflamed appendix sent shocks of pain through his body. His assistants watched in horror as their doctor, friend, and only hope of survival cut deeper into his own flesh. One would later recall, "His face was grey with pain, but his hands never trembled." At one point, he nearly lost consciousness, but he knew that would mean death. So he took short breaks, wiping away his own sweat, and continued cutting. After 40 minutes of careful dissection, working more by touch than sight, he finally reached the angry, inflamed appendix. And then, in what must have been the longest 2 hours of his life, he removed it. The infected organ was just moments from rupturing. With the precision of a man sewing his own life back together, he carefully closed the incision. The next day, he noted in his diary, "I didn't sleep at all last night. It hurts like the devil, but I'm alive." 5 days later, his temperature was normal. 2 weeks later, he was back to his duties, as if he hadn't just made medical history. When asked years later about the experience, Rogozov simply said, "In a life or death situation, a person can do anything." But perhaps what's most remarkable is what he wrote in his official medical report. A job like any other, just a bit more difficult. His self-surgery didn't just save his life, it changed how we think about human endurance and rewrote medical emergency protocols worldwide. Today, his case is studied in medical schools across the globe, not just for the surgical technique, but for what it teaches us about the limits of human will. Astronauts on the International Space Station study his case as part of their medical training. knowing they might face similar impossible choices millions of miles from Earth. His operation led to new research in self-surgery techniques, essential training for astronauts, military medical protocols, and extreme environment survival procedures. The case changed Antarctic protocol forever. Now all research stations require 2 doctors and extensive psychological screening, because sometimes even the doctor needs a doctor. As for Rogozov, he returned to Leningrad, continued his medical career, and never sought fame for what he'd done. When asked why he took such risks, he said something we should all remember. If you find yourself in an impossible situation, you must still act, because doing nothing is the only guaranteed failure. He lived until 2000, never quite understanding why people found his story so amazing. To him it was simple. When death is the only other option, impossible becomes possible. If this story of extraordinary courage and human will moved you, hit that like button with the same precision Dr. Rogozov used that night. Subscribe to join us in exploring history's most incredible moments, and ring that notification bell to never miss a story that defies belief. Let me know in the comments. What amazed you most about Dr. Rogozov's story? His technical skill under impossible conditions? His incredible calm in the face of death? Or the fact that he went back to work just 2 weeks later? Share your thoughts below. I read and respond to every comment. And remember, as Dr. Rogozov proved with nothing but a mirror and unwavering will, sometimes the only way out is through yourself. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next incredible chapter of history.